F is for friends.
Oh, I like that.
You play board games with friends.
We do.
These are F games.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
Good intro, Nick.
You're great job, man. You skilled that so hard. We, as Nick was alluding to, are going through the alphabet. We're doing an alphabet series of choosing 10 games from every letter of the alphabet, with the exception of probably like
the J's, the Q's, and stuff.
We'll make a combo episode then, but we are going through the alphabet, talking about games from each letter. We think it's a nice way to kind of get this weird variety list, really.
I mean, it's going to be, in the end, if we did 10 from each, it'd be 260 games.
Dang, you're right.
It's like, it ends up being a lot, and we can't repeat a game.
Yeah.
We know that, you know, so it's kind of an interesting way to be like, oh, this is, how many can we get out of here? So it's really cool. So we are in F. There's a lot of bangers in F. F is one of those weird letters that there's a lot of really good games in F. So you know what? Put your favorite F games down in the comments, and let's get right into ours.
Number 10 is Fyfe. This is a fairly simple game where you're going to be playing out a token and then putting a little surfboard on the edge of your player board, a little 5x5 grid for your tokens. And that surfboard's going to have like a scoring condition. So if I'm putting it here down here, it's looking at the row that it's pointing toward, saying that I want to have all different numbers on the tokens. The tokens are all going to have a number, a color, and a kind of symbol, like a flower or something like that. There's always three types of categories essentially that are going to be on this token. And as you play out tokens and play your little scoring markers around, you are going to start having to try to work in 4 dimensions, where I'm trying to build stuff so that my row is really nice based on that scoring, where I want to have different numbers. But my column here, where it bisects one of those tokens, I want to have all different colors. So I need to make sure that that token down there at the bottom that is now having to focus on 2 different scoring conditions, I have to try to make it work for both, ideally. You are not going to be able to get everything perfect, because as you take out tokens and put them on your board, you might not have a token that is seemingly super useful. So maybe I can place a token out of the way for now, hope to play something later that makes it valuable for the scoring, you know, that I put in that column or whatever. And so this is just a very like unassuming melt your brain game where you are going to just be like, I need the totem, and it needs to be blue, and it has to be a 4. And if those 3 things aren't on this exact token that I pulled, my life is over. And I like the intrigue of that, of like taking what you get, making the most of it, trying to make sure that you're thinking of all the different directions of scoring at once. It is just a melt your brain game in a very good way. That is Fyfe.
On number 9 is a huge produced game that is ultimately kind of a gateway game, and this is Foundations of Rome. Foundations of Rome is a really fun game. Very overproduced, but it's kind of fun to have a big overproduced gateway game. I think it's nice to introduce people to like, look at what board games can be. Not all board games look like this, but they can look like this. It's kind of a good thing to have. Foundations of Rome is a very simple game. This is a game, there's a central board of Rome, and you are trying to put out your buildings and trying to score them as basically as best you can. A lot of these buildings are going to want to be next to certain things, in certain places, things like that. And kind of on your turn, you will do a couple different things. You can buy a deed to land. The board is broken up into letters and numbers. So like A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, kind of like that all the way down, kind of chess style. And these deeds will be coming out, and the deed will be like, this is a deed for F1. And so you're like, ooh, I really need F1 because I need to build this certain building, but this building is like a Tetris L shape, and I need to own the deeds to the lands in that L shape to be able to swap those out and put one of my buildings down. And that's pretty much all you're doing. You are getting these deeds, putting down these flags to say like, I own this now, and there's no like bargaining for deeds. There's no like, haha, I'm gonna come in and steal your land. There's none of that. You just are getting these deeds, paying money for them, and then essentially transferring those deeds into a building of some type, and the building will either give you money, which again you use to buy the deeds, or they'll kind of give you points for things that are adjacent to them. You can then upgrade buildings into other things. It's really, really simple, but really, really fun. And again, overproduced to the stars. But that is one of the things that makes it really, really fun. I do like Foundations of Rome quite a bit. It's just a really, really simple, good, solid game that is very, very pretty.
Number 8 is Furnace. This is a nice, quick engine building slash auctioning bidding game that does that auction bid in one of my favorite ways that I've ever seen in a game. This is a game where you are going to be bidding on different cards that are in a row over 4 quick, very quick rounds, and you are going to have these discs numbered 1 through 4, and you have to place them all on different cards. You cannot place the same number on a card that's been placed before, so I couldn't put a 3 if a 3 is already present on a card that's been bid on before. And you are trying to win cards, and also very specifically trying to not win cards, but be very close to winning, because cards on the bottom will have some sort of usually exchange of resources. Like this is going to turn 4 coal into $2, and dollars is your points, and points is your money, and all that, and it's good. So you are trying to do that, but on the tops of the cards, there are going to be concessions, I guess, consolation prizes, I think is what I'm looking for. So whoever does not win a card, if you bid on that card, you get whatever's on the top, whether it be resources, a conversion of resources, or whatever, and it's going to be multiplied times the value of your disc. So if someone puts a 3 and that's a winning bid, and I put down a 2, and at the top we see steel, I'm going to get 2 steel, which is going to be vitally important for actually running my engine in the kind of second half of each rounds. So I just love how often you are going in on a non-bid. You're like, I want to put up a big number here, but I do not want to win this card because the action at the bottom of the card isn't really useful for what I'm trying to do. I don't have any oil at the moment to make use of that card, but I really want the coal that's at the top of the card. So those just create fascinating decisions where it's not just straight up try to win every bid. You are trying to very specifically and very carefully lose some bids. That is super unique. The engine building, kind of running through and tapping all your cards and making use of their actions is quick and fun and puzzly on its own. And it's only 4 very quick rounds. So the game does not take too long to play. It packs just a great punch in a very short amount of time.
Number 7 is a game called Fox in the Forest, and this could also be Fox in the Forest / Fox in the Forest Duet, as there are 2 versions of this game that are like 80% the same game. One is just cooperative and one is competitive. This is a 2-player trick-taking game, and I'm always intrigued by 2-player trick-taking games because 2-player and trick-taking seems like it won't work at all, but there are a couple games out there that make it work really well. So Fox in the Forest we really, really enjoy, and this is a game where the person will lead, they'll put out a card, the other person will put out a card of the same suit, highest card wins. Cool. The cool thing is in Fox in the Forest, all of the odd cards, your 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, and 11, are all gonna have some kind of special ability. One can like switch out the trump card, whatever the trump suit is, you can switch that out. They might allow you to switch things around, do stuff, and then the even cards are just normal cards. And the cool thing about Fox in the Forest is you want to win a lot of tricks, but you don't want to win too many tricks because at the end of the round, you essentially will gain points equal to how many tricks you won for the most part. So generally more tricks is better, but there is a catch. If you get too many tricks, you get like the greedy. There's like all these different names for the amount of tricks you got. You get greedy, and if you get greedy, you actually get like no points, and the person who basically didn't get anything gets a bunch of points. And so there's always this like tug, like push and pull, like, okay, you know what? I'm winning, they're winning too much. I'm gonna try and make them win everything because then I can get a ton of different points because they're greedy and I'm like humble or whatever it's called. Really, really fun, but we actually prefer this one co-op. In co-op, same thing where you're playing cards, the odd cards will have powers on them, but in this case, have this little board that has a like forest marker in the middle, and there's a little path that's going on, and there's all these gems on the path because theme. And so you are then pushing and pulling this marker, trying to gather all the gems. Whenever it moves and lands on a gem, you gather that gem. You're trying to get all of them. And on the cards, there are going to be a certain amount of paw prints. So then whoever won the trick you will then say like, I won the trick, Mike didn't win the trick. We would then count up the pause between our two cards, and then the marker would get pulled in my direction because I won it, the amount of pause on there. So there's all of this really interesting hidden language that you're speaking. We're like, I'm putting this one out. It's a 3-paw. The marker is way on my end. We need you to win this one to really pull the marker back over, because if you ever pull it off the board, you essentially limit the space on the board and it gets smaller and smaller, which means the game gets harder and harder and harder. It's really, really fun. I really love that hidden language in trick-taking games. This is a great way to do it 2-player. It's really, really great. Fox and Force Duet are amazing.
Number 6 is Framework. This is from Uwe Rosenberg, kind of in the line of Nova Luna, Habitats being the kind of original game, not from Uwe Rosenberg, but inspired Uwe Rosenberg to make all these games. Nova Luna, Sagani. Now, Framework is a simple tile laying game where you are laying tiles that are going to show one or more frames of the same or different colors around, and in the middle, oftentimes, there will be basically a task you want to complete where you want to get that particular tile surrounded by certain color frames. So, in the middle, I might have a 2 in silver, meaning I want at least 2 silver frames to surround this tile, be adjacent to this tile. But what's really fun is like sometimes you want 9 of something. Well, this is a square tile, only has 4 sides, so I can't surround it by more than 4. But I can actually, because there's follow-through adjacency, meaning if I had something that needed green rings and I have a green ring next to that tile, and next to that tile, there's more green rings. It creates a continuous flow of green all the way back to the original tile, and all those extra tiles are considered adjacent because they haven't been broken up by anything leading back to that tile. That makes for really fun kind of spatial puzzliness, where you are I kind of think of it like building an engine, where I might get this group of green frames, and I can have it where I can place a tile down, and if the task requires green, I can pretty much instantly complete it. And you have these discs that you're putting onto your tiles as you complete tasks, and it's a race to get rid of your discs first. So I love the kind of investment in 1 or 2 colors and trying to get tiles that will work for that sort of frame engine you have built. It's just really simple and smooth. We're on your turn taking a tile from the ones that are available in front of you, and you're going around and around and doing that. If you're the first player in a round, you get to draft the first and last tile, so you get to do an extra tile and kind of hopefully find something that's gonna be really useful. And again, building those combos, those areas of a ton of a certain color, and then leaving space to put out tiles that will connect to that group so you can complete those tasks as quick as possible. That is Framework.
Number 5 is going to be Fantasy Realms. Fantasy Realms is a great game that we actually played for the first time like last year, which is not a new game. We just somehow never got it played. But this is a super simple card game where you're going to have a hand of, I believe, 7 cards. And on your turn, you can either you're going to draw a card and discard a card to the center of the table, or you can pick up a card from the center of the table and then discard a card back to the center of the table. So that's all you do in the whole thing. And what you're trying to do is basically try to get the best hand of cards you possibly can, because your cards are all going to be worth points, but on top of that, they're all going to have a suit like dragons or like weather or certain things like that. And on top of the suit they're also going to have some kind of scoring something on there. So it might be like, this card is worth, like, say you're like a wizard or something like that. That card is worth like 5 points on its own. But for every like other wizard in your hand, this is worth -10 because you don't want rival wizards. This is not a real card, I'm just making this up. And like it says -10, but if you also have the scepter card, this is +30 because the wizard needs a scepter or whatever. And so there's all these things where you're basically trying to make the best hand of cards that you possibly can by essentially getting out negatives, bringing in positives, trying to do stuff, and that's all you do is you draw a card, discard a card, or draw a card from the table, discard a card to the table. That's it. That's the whole game. That's all it is. And it's so simple, and you're just trying to build the biggest hand, the best possible hand you can. It's amazing, and it's just dead simple. You can teach it very easily, play it so easily. It's wonderful. There's now I'm not sure if it's called Fantasy Realms, but it's called Marvel Remix. It's Fantasy Realms, but with Marvel characters. It's very, very cool. I like it a lot. I think I like the base one a little bit better because there's a little bit less It's a little bit less complicated, although neither are super complicated. But nonetheless, Fantasy Realms is really, really good. I like it a lot. It's simple, beautiful, fun.
Number 4 is 5 Tribes, okay? So this is a fantastic Mancala style game where you are going to have a display of tiles that are kind of locations that you're going to that are going to have actions on them. And you're going to have a whole ton of meeples. You're going to start off with 3 meeples on each of those tiles in 5 or some expansion stuff, possibly more colors. What's really cool about this game is the spatial puzzly nature, because on your turn, you're going to pick up a group of meeples from a tile. You're going to pick them all up, and you're going to go from adjacent tile to adjacent tile, dropping 1 meeple off until you land on your final meeple dropping onto a tile. And that'll be the tile that you activate. You have to be able to you have to basically place your last meeple onto a tile that has at least one of its matching color. So if I have my last meeple is white, there has to be at least 1 white meeple on the tile. I pick up all of those meeples and collect them to do, at times, special actions. At times, there's a bit of set collection, things like that. And so I get to get these meeples and get an action from the color of the meeple itself. And then I also get to do the action on the tile. So I love that you are trying to pick up meeples, strategically distribute them to land on a tile that's maybe 3, 4, 5 tiles away from the original tile, and make sure I have the right color at the right time to, drop on that final tile to pick up a bunch of stuff. If I manage to clear the tile completely, I take control of that tile, and which will be worth points at the end of the game. There's just so many fun things to munch on. And of course, with a game where you can go this direction and that and pick up all these meeples and drop them off in a different order, this could create a ton of analysis paralysis, but I just try not to think too hard about it and enjoy myself. It's just really a fun, satisfying puzzle. And again, I like that the color of the meeple matters, the tile you land on matters. It all can turn into points, which is super duper cool. That is 5 Tribes.
Number 3 is a big Uwe Rosenberg game that is only for 1 or 2 players, and that is Fields of Arle. I am always intrigued by really big games that are only for like 2 players, because you're like, ooh, because a lot of 2-player games tend to be smaller just because of how they are. So when you see like a really big game, like a big Euro game, it's like, nope, it's 2 players. You're like, what? That's going to be good. It's just when it's that big and they're like, nope, it's only going to be 2 players, that's going to be good. And Fields of Arle is really, really good. If you like Uwe Rosenberg farming games, you'll probably like Fields of Arle. If you don't, you probably won't like Fields of Arle. It's got a lot of Uwe stuff going on in there, but it's really, really good. This is a game, again, where you're kind of building out a farm. You have a classic farm board and you're getting tiles, and those tiles that go on the board, some of those tiles will be buildings. Sometimes they'll be like forests or, wheat fields or flax fields or something like that. You're getting resources, classic Uwe stuff. But one thing that's really interesting about this game is this game takes place over a certain amount of rounds, and one round you're going to be playing on one side of the board, which is going to be summer, and then the other round you're moving to the other side of the board, which is going to be winter. And there are different actions on those 2 sides. And for the most part, you basically have to stick on that side. So you're kind of like constantly planning for the next season. Be like, okay, I'm going to get these things now, these resources now, because over in winter, I'm going to want to go to this action so that I can then turn these resources into these goods that I can then ship off and get lots and lots of points. Yay. And so it's this really interesting back and forth where you're like, gosh, I have all this stuff, but I can't do it because we're in winter and I need to be in summer. So, okay, what can I do right now to then do the things I need to do, but also then prepare for summer? It's really, really good. It's very Uwe Rosenberg, but it also feels relatively different from an Uwe Rosenberg game. It's just, I freaking love it. I just absolutely adore it. I love big Uwe Rosenberg farming games, and this is one of my favorite ones.
Number 2 is a game we've talked a lot about. This is Faiyum from Friedemann, Friese, and 2F Spiele. And this is a fantastic, I guess, deck building in a way. Although you're never getting a deck and then shuffling your cards, but you're buying and playing cards to kind of build out the land, all in the name of the pharaoh. So what's really cool is you're building roads and towns and settlements and cities and vineyards and all sorts of things, but you don't own any of it. It all belongs to the pharaoh. All we have is our money and our reputation, aka points in the game, that are ours exclusively. So there's this kind of great built-in cooperative or collaborative, I'll say, infrastructure that happens in the game where someone builds a road. I'm like, thanks, I needed to get over there. You cleared the land of crocodiles. It's all nice here. I'm going to put a town. And you're like, I was going to build a workshop there, but okay, it's fine. Now that you've done that, maybe I can take that town, make it, a bigger city or something, and I can kind of modify what's going on. So that whole kind of shared infrastructure, nothing is mine, everything is yours, and trying to kind of do your best to build out and get that reputation, because that's something that's going to carry with you forward. Like, wow, Mike, what a great builder. He's so cool. He's so handsome. So what's really exciting, though, is with the cards and the order that you play them. On your turn, you can buy a card, play a card, or kind of do an administrative action. They call it a reset action of sorts. When you play cards, you're going to play them to a discard pile, face up, one at a time, and that is never going to get shuffled or rearranged in any way. When you go to do that reset action, that administrative action, you're going to get 3 of those cards back from the deck of discard, your discard deck, for free, and then you can purchase additional cards, but they come back to your hand in reverse turn order, meaning the most recently played card comes back to my hand first. So if I played a really valuable card, one that I like, 8-9 turns ago, it's buried way down deep, and I have to buy all the cards that are above it to get back that card. So you want to kind of time the order that you play your cards in really well, so you don't effectively bury something that you need. As you go through the game, you're going to be purchasing more and more valuable cards. They come out in a way kind of like Power Grid, where the lower numbered cards come out first, or rather will hit the market, the available market first, and then higher number stuff will typically be later in the game, depending on how those cards come out. So there's a progression where you might not mind a card getting buried, but you don't want that to happen too early. So the order of the cards, the kind of sequencing that you do with those cards is really, really fascinating. It's so fun. That's FAM.
If you know much about us, you probably know what number 1 is going to be, and that is going to be A Feast for Odin, another big Uwe Rosenberg kind of farming game. We love Feast for Odin. It's Mike's favorite game of all time. It's usually in my top 10 every time we do it, if not even my top 5. We love Feast for Odin. Feast for Odin is this big old sandbox of a worker placement game where you are Vikings doing Viking stuff, and you're getting beans and turning them into this and basically getting goods and trying to essentially upgrade those goods to fill in various boards. You have your home board and you have a whole bunch of negatives all over that board in typical kind of Uwe Rosenberg fashion, where you need to cover stuff up or else you're going to get negatives. So you're covering your board with blue and green kind of goods. And then you can also get islands, and those islands will have a whole bunch of more negatives on them, and then you're covering those up, and all these things are going to be worth points, and that's what it is. It's kind of this big efficiency engine where you're trying to get these resources, use them for what you need, upgrade them, and then put them down on these boards to cover up these negatives to try and maximize your points. And there are so many different ways you can go. There's I think 40 or 50 different worker placement spots you can go to, and it's got this really interesting kind of worker investment thing where if you want to go in, all the worker placement spots are built into 4 columns. The first column, if you want to go into one of those spots, it's going to take one of your Vikings. The second column takes 2 of your Vikings, then 3, then 4. And then the expansion, there's actually a 5th one. And so the ones that are in the 4th column are really, really strong actions, but they are going to take a lot of your workers. Whereas the ones over in the 1 column are good, they're fine, but they're not going to do much, but you only have to use 1 worker to do them. So that constant internal battle of oh, is it worth doing a 3 Viking here? That's going to be, I only have 5 Vikings left. That's basically the rest of my turn. Is it worth it to do this? And trying to be as efficient as humanly possible. I love efficiency puzzles in board games and in video games, and if that's what Feast for Odin is. It's so cool, it's so big. You can take a different path every single time you play it. We absolutely love it. If you know anything about us, you probably knew Feast for Odin was going to be number 1. It's Mike's number 1. It's just so good.
So that is a list of F-tier games. All fails across the board. JK, the best game of all time is on this list.
That's true. It is easy for that one. It was an easy good. Number 1 for Mikey and I.
Yes.
Feast for Odin is just so darn good. But that is our favorite games that start with the letter F. Again, down in the comments, make sure to let us know your favorite games that start with the letter F, and go back to the other videos and put the other ones in for the other letters.
Caught up, it's not too late.
We're going through all of them, fam, and so it's going to be a good time. And until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph. We'll see you later, everybody.
Bye.